So the February Direct happened, and Nintendo gave us a massive 2.5-minute long trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, and there is a lot to unpack here. But I think this trailer gave us a ton of information about the game, so I'm going to do my best to break it down for you and present my analysis of the trailer and give a bit of insight as to what I think we can expect in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm going to focus on the analysis aspects for this video, but I'll have a video about the story implications in the next few days. I'm still working on that script. First things first, if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, it would really help me out. I'm trying really hard to reach 100,000 subscribers before Tears of the Kingdom releases, and I've got big plans for that game. So if you like this type of content, hitting that subscribe button only takes a second, and I would really appreciate the help. Thanks! Okay, starting things off, we open on a dark and stormy Hyrule. The extreme weather is likely related to the current cataclysmic event that is the catalyst for this game. We can see some red energy flowing up from the ground and erupting from Death Mountain. I no longer believe this to be pure malice, and I'll explain why I think that later on when it becomes more relevant. For now though, I also want to make note of the green swirl that was featured in the previous trailer. I still think this will be one of our connections to the sky, and that they'll be used to send Link upwards. You can actually see a lot of them in this trailer, which I think only strengthens that idea. Now, speaking of the last trailer, we finally get to see up close and personal those new flying enemies. They actually look kinda terrifying in my opinion. They just have a really ugly looking design, and I like that they're leaning into the more disturbing looking creature designs for the new enemies. This probably isn't important, but this area happens to be right next to the Woodland Sheikah Tower near the Lost Woods. Seeing as this is just a glamour type shot though, that probably is not an important detail, although I figured I'd mention it just in case. Now here's where it does get pretty interesting. There are two glowing pillars on the sides of the frame. I have to believe these are going to be the Sheikah Tower equivalents. I guess we can call them Zonai Towers. They have that familiar orange glow in the center of them, and as a mechanic, the game does need something to replace the towers, so this seems like an obvious choice. Now, of course, there is the glowing glyph in the center of the frame, and it looks pretty familiar to the glyph from the last trailer, and it's not the only time we'll see it here, so we'll talk more about it the next time we see it. And that brings us to something that I'm extremely excited about: caves. This was rumored and speculated about going all the way back to the first trailer, but yeah, we're finally going to be able to explore the underground, and I love the design with the decaying forest, mushrooms, and weird looking vines. We can also see camps of enemies trying to dig something up. It looks like it could be a talus, but then this part over here looks like it has eyes. I'm not too sure. I might just be imagining things at this point. Finally, there is a bunch of that weird red stuff all over the ground, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself just yet. For this next part, I'm just going to let the trailer play normally for a bit, and then we'll go back and talk about it.
Rise, rise, my servants. Sweep over Hyrule. Eliminate this kingdom and her allies. Leave no survivors!
Yeah, so Ganondorf finally seems to have a voice. I'll be honest, it's not what I was expecting, although it is growing on me a little bit. And I know, that was a huge shock, but there's something else worth pointing out. There's a 3-headed dragon on the bridge over Lake Hylia. I think this is actually Gleeok, which would make this a reimagining of the boss from Zelda 1, which is such a cool throwback. Imagine trying to fight that thing while gliding from island to island in the sky. Man, that would be so sick. You can also briefly see another green swirl, and you'll get a view of another one as we switch over to Hateno. This is probably the most important sequence from a story perspective. Obviously, the key detail here is the blood moon, and I think it's pretty clear that it is the source of that weird red energy and not malice from Ganondorf like I originally thought it was. You can see the energy from what I'm going to start calling the super blood moon respawn and transform enemies, creating newer and more menacing foes for us to fight, and even bringing back some Zelda classics like this Redead over here. I mean, just look at these Bokoblins and the Zolfos. They definitely got a beefy upgrade. Obviously, this is the event that's the catalyst for this game, and it explains a lot about how Ganondorf got revived in the first place. Next, we see Link riding alongside Hyrule Castle. Interestingly enough, though, there appears to be a massive storm in the Hebra region in the background. Overall, the weather does seem to be a little bit crazy throughout this Super Blood Moon event. The lightning and rain does a lot to set the mood, but it's also a good indication of just how different this Blood Moon is from the typical Blood Moons. This shot seems to be just a Molduga moving through the sand. It seems kind of random to me, so I'm wondering if I'm missing something here. Maybe you guys could point it out to me in the comments if I am. Anyways, Anyways, the next part is important. Link is standing on top of a Sheikah circle. Arms from a guardian come out from the ground, and I want you to notice something in the claw of the arm in front of Link. I can't say for certain what this is, but I want to say this is how you get your runes or upgrades to Link's magic arm in this game. That would just make sense to me. Here we get a better look at the new Bokoblins. Oh, and apparently this big one is called a boss Bokoblin. At least that's what I've seen online. Although again, I did try to find official confirmation and I came up empty-handed, so take that with a grain of salt. I do like this shot of Link running away from a Hinox in this cave though. The green stone around its neck caught my interest and I can't help but wonder what that material could be used for. It looks like it's casting a shadow / light on the ground, so it's definitely got some energy to it, and it resembles the same color as Link's arm, so like, maybe there's a connection there somehow? Or maybe I'm reaching a bit, who's to say? Now we just get a few glamour shots of the world. I don't know if it's just me, but the grass looks a lot better in this game. It's so lush and shiny. Oh, and yeah, they can fly now.
They fly now!
I find these moblins kind of interesting as well. They have weird looking helmets, I want to say, although they appear to be more on the organic side of things. But does this have any sort of story or plot implications? Absolutely not. They just kind of look weird, and I wanted to point it out. But on to something that probably does have story and plot significance. It's this Minecraft Iron Golem looking thing. This appears to be some sort of Zonai creation, I want to say. From the background, I think it's safe to say that we are up in the sky, so these could just be normal sky enemies that you can randomly encounter, but I think this is more of a boss of sorts, like the end of a shrine type of boss. I want to say that once this thing is defeated, we get some sort of upgrade or material that is stored in Link's little vials on his hip, which again might in turn be used to upgrade your arm at the Sheikah circle we saw earlier. Alternatively, they could be a form of magic used to augment some of your weapons. And now we get to witness the big event, the revival of Ganondorf. In previous trailers, there was that weird hand thing seemingly holding the energy back, but now it's been removed and it's nowhere to be seen. The energy seems to be possessing or getting absorbed by Ganondorf to revive him. Either way, he wakes up and man, those blood red eyes are piercing. It's also the same hue as the Blood Moon, which I think gives a little more credibility to the Super Blood Moon theory. We can also hear some dialogue from Princess Zelda, who is speaking to an unknown person or entity. Take a listen.
But Link, I am not sure you'll be able to stop him.
That's followed up by Link jumping from the sky down to Hyrule, and there's a few things I want to point out that I found interesting. Firstly, the Sky Islands are a mixture of both natural formations and more man-made looking structures. All that really means is that there was the influence of some sort of civilization, whether that be Zonai or otherwise. While falling towards the ground though, notice this circle of Blood Moon energy, and I want to say that those are going to be very common. They might actually lead to the underground that we need to cleanse from evil in some way. So maybe the green swirls that we saw earlier are pathways to the sky, and the red circles are pathways that lead underground. That's pure speculation on my part, but I do think it kind of makes sense, right? Now the next wide shot shows us a close-up of that glyph from earlier. You can also see another Zonai tower off to the left there. And because we've seen so many of them now at this point, I'm pretty sure those are going to replace the Sheikah towers. Continuing on, check out this new arrow type. It's a homing arrow. Its charge up is very similar to that of the ancient arrows, but it's green, so obviously that means it's making use of Link's new hand energy, or maybe the vials of energy in his pouch, which could play into the whole weapon augmentation thing that I mentioned earlier. Hard to really confirm that off of just a few seconds of footage though. Oh yeah, and check it out, we can shield surf on rails now. That is going to be a lot of fun. Two things worth pointing out here are the weird looking red rock in the background. Really have no idea what that could be at this point, but there's also these two green fan blades here. If you've already seen the entirety of the trailer, you know what those are for, but it's cool to know that these scraps can be found just about anywhere in Hyrule. They're probably going to be used for some sort of quest, but we'll talk about that more a bit later on. Before that though, we can see one of Link's new arm abilities. This one is similar to Magnesis, but I don't think it's quite the same because this isn't the only time it's used in this trailer, and I'm not sure I can confidently say the surfaces that it's being used on are metallic. Also, there's something to be said about having puzzles appear in the sky. It kind of makes me think maybe the sky itself is actually what ends up replacing shrines, as in all the Sky Islands are just different areas where Link can solve puzzles or fight tougher enemies in order to get this game's version of Spirit Orbs, which kind of makes sense since we were fighting that giant box monster in the sky previously. Anyway, moving on. I'm really digging the new weapon types that this game has. I mean, look at this thing. It's an explosive hammer cannon. Like, if that isn't cool, I don't know what is, man. It's great to know that this game isn't just going to recycle the same 3 or 4 weapon types. It really seems like they are innovating combat, and I am so looking forward to it. Oh, and this is really important. We have this character who I suppose could be Princess Zelda, and it might be, given the pose she is first seen in is very similar to the poses from Breath of the Wild, but what if this is the person Zelda was talking to in the trailer? I mean, she does have a divine glow to her, and the long necklace in front of the dress I'm pretty sure is Zonai inspired. It's even got little swirl accents right here. I'm wondering if this could be the Dee connection that I mentioned in my last theory. Link to that will be in the corner of the screen if you want to watch that one after this video is done. But I'll admit the more likely candidate is probably Princess Zelda. Whoever they are though, they obviously are helping Link, and from the look of his hand and arm, my boy needs it. That thing looks like it's decaying and barely human at this point. And in the scene following this, Link contemplates never washing his hand because he finally touched a woman. But more importantly, here's the second instance where Link uses his object manipulation ability to pull up this tire from the mud. And that brings us to the weirdest inclusion in Tears of the Kingdom, vehicle creation? Did anyone actually see this coming? I have absolutely no idea how this mechanic is going to work or how you're going to build these vehicles, but it seems pretty robust since we got this car looking thing, a hot air balloon, and a super high-tech rideable glider. Kinda makes the next scene of Link riding a horse look really lame by comparison. Oh yeah, and one more thing worth pointing out in that horse scene is that one singular rock that is glowing green is falling from the sky over on the left. There is no way that was shown by accident. Unfortunately, I don't have enough info to make an educated guess on what that could be, but it's clearly going to be an important mechanic in some way or another. Now as the logo fades in, you can see more Zonai towers in the background and the music begins to crescendo and do that reverse thing. Take a listen. Now I still think something might be hidden in that audio, but no matter how much I try, I can't hear anything discernible, and as far as I know, no one has made any major discoveries either, so maybe there's nothing there at all, but it feels like there has to be something in that audio. Before we end things off though, there is one final scene. If you pause right at the beginning, it's very quick, I think there is an extremely important detail. Look at the Master Sword here. It's covered in that weird blood moon energy. Now from the logo for Tears of the Kingdom and some of the game's art, we know the Master Sword itself gets extremely decayed and broken, so it's clear that this is how that happens. It looks like the moon energy and Ganondorf's malice combined to sort of attack Link and Zelda. What's odd here is that Link's arm is already extremely damaged. It also has hints of red lines going through it. What I think may have happened here is that Link actually inserted his arm into the floating mechanical arm from the previous trailers, the one that was holding Ganondorf back. For whatever reason, it didn't accept him as the hero or whatever, and it brutally burned him or something. This event is also what I really think sparked the awakening of Ganondorf along with the Super Blood Moon. Either way, Link turns around and tries to grab Zelda as both of them fall into the abyss. From there, we have one final piece of dialogue from Zelda begging someone for help.
Please, lend him your power.
And that's it. That's the end of the trailer. Now, there was a lot, and I only tried to focus on the most important details from this trailer. There is still a lot to go over, and I think this trailer even gives us a lot of information about the story. I'll have a video about that soon, in fact. But before I go, there's some last tidbits that I want to make mention. So, Amiibo will return, and it seems like scanning them in will actually provide you with new material which you can use to change the look of your glider, which is kind of a cool addition. We also got some new art of Link, Bokoblins, and Zelda. The Zelda art is really neat because it looks like the Sheikah Slate got a bit of an upgrade. Now it looks way more like a Nintendo Switch than in Breath of the Wild. Maybe this is the Sheikah Slate Pro. Now I'm not really sure what this could be used for in the game, considering it doesn't appear that Link has the Sheikah Slate at all, so who knows. Either way, I think I'm going to end things off here. So once again guys, my name is Matt, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.